lost it. There it is.
Hey, Mary.
I'm back. Hi there.
Tia, you want me to jump in, or no? You got to do the minutes first, though.
Yeah, I have not started yet. Just texted Mike to see if he's going to join us in a second.
Got it.
Might just delay a minute.
I'm still working on finding the package to share.
Just don't worry about it. We'll just do it verbally.
Okay.
Hey, Doug, you're in the office. You could share a document pretty easy, couldn't you?
I've got it up on my desktop. How do I do that? Just hit share screen?
Yeah, but we don't want to do it just yet. But yeah, you just hit share screen, and then it'll show all the different apps that you have open, and you'll just have to select on the document.
Okay, I'll close all those contraband apps before I share screen.
No playing on Twitter in a meeting, Doug. I have not gotten a message back. If he joins, that'd be great, but we can go ahead. I mean, it is 6:01, so let's go ahead and get rules and regulations meeting started. I haven't seen that we've gone live on Facebook yet. Has that happened? I haven't gotten a notification.
I am looking.
Shows Bella Vista POA.
I see that one there.
Yeah, I think he's on.
It's not live though.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to miss any conversation.
Is it live?
Live video will start soon.
Okay, it's not. Let me text Chris.
Okay. Y'all, it's just one of those days.
It is.
It's sort of like two of those days, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know, I'm texting Chris. Okay, so Facebook blocked, but he's recording.
Okay.
So we can't go live on Facebook. I don't know why.
Because of Doug.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. We'll go ahead and get started then. First thing we have is approval of the minutes. Anybody like to make a motion?
What was the date?
December 1st. I'll make a motion that we accept this as the minutes as is from December 1st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. We only have one topic today. I believe I'm going to hand it over to Tom to explain to us what management is recommending to our Rules and Regs board.
Okay, so back in late 2016, the Arkansas Department of Health made some enforcement changes with regards to policy, with regards to their policy on septic systems, and effectively took, if you were trying to get a 2 or 3 bedroom home in Bella Vista, previously it would be 0.25 acres. And now, because of the change, it would require 0.33 acres. And all that depends upon the soil conditions there. So what it's done is it's taken some of these lots and that are in Bella Vista that are smaller than a third of an acre, and it's now making them unbuildable lots. Now, we did look into, there are more high-tech.
Tom, why wouldn't they be buildable for a 2-bedroom house?
Well, it just, it's not enough acreage for the lateral lines and for the septic system itself. So they're saying they need more acreage, and it's not practical for a home to be approved on a 1/4 acre lot.
So it's not a 3-bedroom home, it's any home.
Well, it's possible you could get a 1-bedroom home in a 1/4 acre lot, but how many people want a 1-bedroom home is pretty limited.
It's an apartment.
Yeah, studio. Any other questions along those lines?
2-bedroom on a 0.33, right?
Yeah, and it all depends upon the lot itself, the topography, how much rock is under the ground. Is it steep slope? I said topography. There's a lot of different conditions that dictate how large of a home you can have. But what we're hearing, especially recently, is a number of builders that are complaining because they are going in trying to get a perk on a lot, and it's not perking, and it's typically these 1/4 acre lots that are just not perking at all, and they're seeking help from us. We've had situations in the past. Usually it's when a septic system fails, but we had one a couple of months ago where the property owner wanted to go across POA property because they had purchased a lot on the other side, and the board approved that. So let me get back into a little bit more specific. So we looked into, and Tammy did all this research, but we looked into, is there more high-tech systems? And there are, but you go from a standard septic system, which costs typically about $8,000, you're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 for these other systems. And they're just not that common. So what we're thinking of is, hey, Doug, why don't you move on to the policy 8.03 on the screen, on the shared screen, please. What we're proposing is to add a little bit of latitude with regards to 8.03. Now, previously, or currently actually to say, this policy is used when septic systems fail. But what I'm recommending is that we make a few modifications to this policy and give the board some latitude. Now, the board is going to have to make a decision for each request. So it's not a management decision. It's ultimately the board will have to make it. But this would give them some flexibility, a property owner some flexibility to potentially use POA common property for their septic system. Now we would have to, on each request, we'd have to look at what's the location, is it anywhere near, a trail or any amenity or anything to that nature? Is it going to cause a problem in any way? And those might be reasons why the board would ultimately reject them. But we're just recommending that we give some flexibility because we literally have several thousand lots that are a 1/4 acre that at this point, because of the changes in the septic, the administration of the septic rules, they're unbuildable. Doug, if you can zoom in on that and maybe on your shared screen that you could then show some of the changes, that'd be great. Okay, so we're looking initially at the title where we're request for use of common property. And then you see that there's a small change in the first paragraph, which is more grammatical of a change. And then in the main body of it, the third paragraph down, you'll see some changes and so forth. So we're really not looking for too many changes. This is just a different approach. And the board may not agree with this. There's some people that feel that common ground should never be used for this. I'm just of the opinion that these people purchased these lots and wanted to build a home at some point in the future, and because of changes that they can't control at all, their lot where they wanted to have a home in the future is no longer viable, or would cost $20,000 to $30,000 in order to make it viable.
Yeah, and it's not crazy to think how many people could be in that situation if the change was just in 2016. That's rather recent from 2.5 to 3.3, and there's a lot of people that bought our land when it was a lot cheaper than it is now, and they've been holding it to build on. So I can see how that is a lot of members in need of a solution.
Yeah, and like I said, if it doesn't make sense, clearly, this would be an extreme example, but if they're looking to put the septic system on common property and a bike trail is going right there, then that doesn't make sense. Or if they're close to a park or something to that nature, then that would no longer make any sense at all. So the board would have the authority to pick and choose, not in a cavalierish way, but in a reasonable way, to make sure that the common property still remains, pristine. We have many portions of common property that are really just in the middle of the woods. So I don't really see this being as a huge detriment to our common property.
If somebody wants to put a leach field in, what happens to the trees that are on top of it? They have to tear them down?
Ooh, good point.
Yes, they would have to.
I don't really agree with Tia on the price of lots here. I think when you can go buy a lot for $1,000, that's pretty darn cheap. And let me ask this: if I bought two lots next to each other and each one was 1/4 of an acre, could I put the leach field on one and the whatever the rest of the system is on the one with the house, or put them both on one 1/4 acre lot if I wasn't going to build a house on that lot?
Yeah, that's what some people do. They'll put the house on one lot and then they'll put the leach field on the other lot.
Oh, here's a good question. In response to that, Mary. In response to that, Mary, would then that qualify as a developed lot, and I would go to a new price point on my monthly fees?
If you don't have water, no.
No, it's an improved lot is determined by having a meter. So you're still going to only have one water meter for that house. So you'd have an improved and an unimproved. But the challenge is that finding those two lots right next to each other is not so easy.
Yeah.
Well, depending on where it is, I think that would be something that the board would want to ask the landowner. Have you tried to locate, if you have a vacant lot on each side of you or on one side, have you tried to contact the owner of that lot to see if you could purchase it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's quite possible that that could be a viable question or a valid question to ask.
Yeah, that is a question that we ask currently. Under the current policy, that's one of the things that they have to say, that they've tried to secure other property to put their leach field on. So
yeah, if they just want to go under common property,
we make them get a waiver or make them go through the waiver for that.
You don't have to take any trees down for that, do you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had a couple of requests for that, and that was one of the solutions for a builder that had this question come up. He couldn't secure the lot on either side. He tried, but he found a lot behind the lot, which meant that he had to take the main feed line across common to the lot behind him, or that was his proposal. So
yeah,
that technically wouldn't fall under this current policy, where it's only in the event of a septic system failure. So it would have been an exception to this policy.
But we're changing this now to just request for the use of common property. I mean, that means for anything. You know, maybe I want to build a garage on common property.
Well, in that instance, the board would in all probability would deny it. But we do have another situation where a property owner has made a request. They live off of a main road, and they would rather, instead of accessing their home off the main road, which is busy, they would like to access their property off of a cul-de-sac. But because of the design of that cul-de-sac, you'd have to go across common property. And so the thought process is, you know, could this property owner potentially use common property for a driveway? And so I'm not saying, this policy change is not saying yes or no, you can do that. It's saying with permission from the board, you could do that. It gives it the possibility or the option, the board the option to look at these on a case-by-case basis and say, oh, that's a reasonable request. In the instance of the driveway, frankly, I'm scratching my head why it's common property in that specific location in the first place. It's kind of an odd drawing of the lot lines, but it's a reasonable request in my opinion. But the board may not share that opinion, and that's fine. We're just trying to allow property owners to bring those proposals to the board using 8.03. And I'm not thinking that this is going to open up the floodgates. I'm still thinking it's going to be a handful of requests per year. So it's not a situation where we're going to have hundreds of requests in 1 year. I would say that we're going to have less than 10 or less than 5 a year.
And further to this discussion, I just noticed another change that we probably need to make under purpose. That first paragraph, we probably need to strike the last 2, 4, 5, 6 words. As a septic system leach field, we probably need to strike that as well.
And I don't agree with that. I actually felt comfortable because the purpose section kept it minimal to what we're discussing is septic system. Mm-hmm. It either needs to be in the header or the purpose, because I don't want to get into right now driveways and other issues on common property and what people want to build on. This is a builder issue. This is a member issue of not being able to build their home and be in our community. And that's, I feel like, what our issue is. That's the only thing we should address right now.
The scary part about this whole thing is, and I know this policy has been in effect for a while, but whatever we do on an individual request basis sort of sets a precedent.
Exactly.
For the next guy.
And my biggest concern, and this is to the other board members, I'm not knowledgeable on septic systems. I don't have the ability and education to determine a yes or a no on what's good or bad for our land and our septic system. So who is it we'd be relying on bringing us information to tell us this is safe, this will not hurt the land, this will not hurt our common property? Like, who is going to be providing that?
Oh, wait a minute, Tia. That's a dirty business, and you don't want to get into that. Let me tell you, it's not going to be cute, and it'll be smoke and mirrors along the way. Septics are, it's raw waste into a tank, and the tanks are across Bella Vista are failing from the 70s investments, and so we've got a ton of leakage. My point with this thing is, I hope we make sure we keep some of our certain amenity bases that we know could be influenced by leach fields, like Sugar Creek, like the caves, like trail systems, that would be kept in mind, because we see the new home permits. They're through the roof, and although we have a fixed number of potential development spots in town, we're probably predicting the same amount of numbers next year. So, and every one of them is going to be facing where does my crap go? So it's maybe a one-off basis and bury it if we can, and hopefully it's scenario based, and we can just get through it. And for the most part, I don't think we have too many issues, but it is going to be coming. Waste management in general is a big deal. So to Mary's point about precedent, waste management is about to become more than we bargained for in Bella Vista.
Are there any quarter acre lots around any of the lakes, or are those lots generally bigger?
They're generally bigger in my experience. They're usually skinny but long, so they're usually bigger than quarter of an acre. I'm not saying there might be, one or two or a handful here and there, but for the most part, they are bigger than that. And as Mike said, also part of the application process that we put in place is they have to have a septic design from a certified septic designer, someone who's credentialed. Now, that doesn't mean to say that there's some who may not be as above board as others. There are still those people out there, but the design would have to come from a certified designer of septic systems.
And is that approved by Department of Health or our water department? How much involvement did they have?
ACC.
No, it's Department of Health. They have to be certified by the Department of Health to be a certified septic designer.
Okay.
Aren't a lot of these lots that are a quarter of an acre owned by the builders? And they're just building the homes on them and then trying to sell the homes?
It's a wide variety. There are a number that, these new home permits obviously are mostly from home builders. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's to keep the builder from building an oversized house and then saying, oh, we got to do this. We didn't calculate that in there.
And there you have it, Jerry. That's the kicker, but that is the absolute core of what's going on.
A bigger house would sell a lot quicker, and if they can make it easy on themselves by us coming to us, I think we are kind of getting into some issues. I'm not against taking this to the board to discuss even farther for a vote on it. I think that would be the something as an individual basis that we need to do.
Yeah, that is a concern, and that's something that the city is talking about trying to pass, an ordinance regarding that. Right now, it's based on the number of bedrooms. They're talking about maybe in Bella Vista trying to base it on square footage, the size of your septic system, which would be a fairly large undertaking. But to your point, Jerry, that is a concern that they are worried about. And as Mike said, it's something that we're going to be facing here the next couple of years with all this building.
I think
what's weird is like that city or the city thing came, the presentation of the change in this requirement was tabled by the city, 2 weeks ago. I had no shortage of 5 realtors reach out to me within hours of learning of the information, which we had a bit of dialogue, ourselves, TN, Tom, and Doug about. And my neighbor is Buddy Bernetti. 6 doors down. And he's the lead at the ACC. And he had his wife, a realtor, JQ Bernetti, reach out to me as well to try to dig up information, knowing full well that they're somewhat in control of this, but yet are realizing that they're not. And then that puts us back in the driver's seat on, which is rare because we haven't been in the driver's seat on this piece of development. And now the pendulum is swinging back towards the POA on how the control of land development goes. And to Jerry's point, hey, these developers absolutely know they've got to deliver a $300,000 house now. It's got to have 3 bedrooms. And it's got to have 2 toilets. And you know what? Those 2 toilets,
Free.
we're going to maybe do 2.5 and not tell anybody. And we may need 2 showers. And we actually have a shop sink too. And did I tell you I want to do a garage and do all this stuff? Look at all the new ones. It doesn't take much to go around and look at the new models. They're almost all identical in what they're offering. I mean, you've seen it, Tia, right there on Long Ridge and Sandridge, of all the new builds going on around you there. They've definitely increased 1,000 square feet. And I don't know what we can do about common property usage for this, but many of them are now laced with trails. Many of the places dump into the waterways. We don't have sewer. We don't have lots of things to challenge this. And I don't know, I know Cooper does not play well, but a larger conversation is afoot. And I'd hate to get stuck with feeling like we made precedent or too many more examples of using common property to aid a development, and knowing that there's a ton of issues about development and where the waste is going to go and the water is going to go. And there's many players at hand here, and we could, now that we're in the driver's seat, we some ways are got the power back in our hands, but also we can fall on the sword a bit too with it.
Yeah. Can you put a leach field on an incline? Probably not. I mean,
Yeah, the lateral lines generally have to be at the same elevation. So, if you have a lateral line at 20 feet, and then your next lateral, and it follows the contour of the property, and then you have another lateral line at 25 feet, that lateral line has to follow the contour of the property. So you can put it on an incline, but as Tom says, it's more difficult, and the design becomes more, usually a bigger leach field takes up more property.
the $20,000 to $30,000 option that you talked about, that's essentially a processing plant, right? I mean, it is what it
Yeah,
is.
that's essentially what it is. Mm-hmm.
So you have your own little sewer department in your backyard.
Yep. It's very expensive.
Where's the city standing right now on sewer? I mean, what has been your communication with them?
So go ahead, Tom.
No, you go, Dick. You go.
I was just going to say that the sewer system in Bella Vista has fallen into private hands. So, it's not a municipal function right now. It's Village Wastewater is a private entity, and they're the ones who control the sewer system in Bella Vista, and whether they expand it or not is totally up to them. So the city hasn't taken a part in that to date.
I like Jerry's idea. Take it to the full board at the next GM meeting. My big issue is, man, you tell somebody, okay, you can put your leach field on common property. Well, I'm guessing 99% of the common property here is wooded.
Yeah,
it?
Definitely.
So, I mean, if I was a neighbor, maybe the guy behind that leach field, and all of a sudden part of my buffer is gone, I wouldn't be real happy.
I'm not sure on the leach field whether that those trees have to come down or not. I thought that only where the tank goes, and the tank has a release valve that releases a certain percentage or whatever amount of overflow as it churns the waste into the ground, and that has to be a certain distance from the tank, has to be considered your leach field. I mean, that's how I understand it. So like Tia's points, like how do we get the 411 on this? It'd be good.
Well, I've had to have a septic system replaced up in Wisconsin, and the new leach fields are a series of some kind of plastic tubes with fins on them. And if there were trees over, I mean, they're not that deep in the ground, first off. And if there were trees that had roots that would encircle these tubes, your leach field isn't going to last you too long, especially if one of those trees goes over and the roots of it pull up the leach field.
Hey, Mary, you're starting to talk about reality again. We're going to have to get you stopped because that's what's happening across the board, period. So
But
whether it's this project or another.
Yeah, but that's the old stuff that probably wasn't put in the right way anyway. We certainly don't want to recreate that.
Yeah, from personal experience, they made me clear the trees out of my leach field, and that was, a year ago. So maybe there are other designers who don't require that, but from my experience, they do require you to remove the trees from your leach field because of what Mary says. The roots can get into the pipes and, jeopardize the system.
Yeah, but the wild card is no one's policing the new
grass. Very true.
So instantly you can go down there and plant a tree or starters come up and there it is.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you try and plant a tree over a leach field, you're going to dig right into it.
And then here's my other question. If we do approve, if this passes and we start looking at these cases and instances and we approve someone to use our common property for a leach field or for any part of the septic, are we going to allow them to fence that area off and that now becomes their backyard?
No, you do a license agreement where you allow them use of the common property, but it never changes ownership. So it's something that has to be filed in the public records where the POA is allowing them use of the common property, but not giving up ownership.
Even without ownership, who is it still going to be monitored that they can't put a fence once the trees are gone? I mean, what would be stopping them?
Yeah, we don't go out and inspect those. I mean, you could make that a requirement, specify that as a requirement, but right now we don't go out and double check those.
Hopefully the ACC does.
Well,
yeah, everybody's brought up some really big questions on this, and it just shows that we need to have the discussion in one of our meetings, and it's going to take a while to really determine where we're going to go on this.
Yeah, agreed.
Do we need to have somebody from MAC there or water there?
We can definitely have Mike and or Charlie there. Probably Mike is probably the better of the two.
Yeah.
Nothing against Charlie, but it's more of a MAC issue than a water issue. And you'll see a reference in here to third to last is the MAC department. But we can bring it forward to at the GM committee the GM meeting, and then see what the board has to say. As I indicated earlier, I'm concerned about a property owner that purchased a lot, 5, 6, 7 years ago or 10 years ago, and all of a sudden they can't build on that lot. That concerns me.
Well, I mean, to be very clear, I'm in that position. I have a lot that I want to build a house on. I've been dealing with a couple of builders, and I think my lot's either 0.31 or 3.2, and it didn't perk for a 3-bedroom home.
Yeah, that stinks.
Called due diligence. Sorry, Tia.
Hey, trial by fire. I guess I got to learn this, don't I?
Yeah.
Okay, so Doug, we don't need to vote to approve this to move it to the next, because I don't want us to even sound like we're approving these changes.
No, I don't think you vote on it at this point. I think you can make a suggestion to move it on to the full board and make sure that everyone, that there's a consensus among the committee.
Okay. Jerry and I have already stated we agree.
Yeah.
Mary. And
I think that we also need to look at what a reasonable fee is. And is it just a single fee, or is it annually, or, what's reasonable?
So Tammy did some research regarding a fee, and we're recommending something between $75 and $200.
Oh, come on.
compared to a $20,000 hit, that's a pretty good deal right there.
Well,
it's definitely something. Well, I recommend this is we'll move this forward to the board meeting, and then if it gets somewhat approved, or it looks like it might approve, then we can start talking about the fee. But at this point, it sounds like this change may have a high hurdle ahead of it to get changed, approved.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, we already have a policy that.
Only in the case of failure, not as
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah, we're just trying to give the board a little bit more flexibility here.
Okay.
Well, I like it that we're talking about it in general, but I do think whatever sideline discussions can happen with the powers that be, ACC, Cooper Communities, the mayor, health department, re-looking at the plot map where we can identify core amenity investments that we have a think outcome in not having human waste in, or even the possibility of, is wise to me. I feel like we have 418 new home permits.
428.
428. Okay, so somebody has to wait a little bit longer while we get our together. I'm not feeling like we're underneath the gun because somebody else needs a place to live. It doesn't feel that bleeding heart to me.
No.
No, we're not pressuring you guys. We're just bringing the issue to your attention. We're not asking you to move this forward at an accelerated pace. We want to make sure the board has ample time to consider it.
So I guess grandfathering isn't an option. If, like Tia, if I bought a lot that's just under the threshold and I bought it 5 years ago when they weren't enforcing this, am I grandfathered in? I guess not.
Department of Health doesn't grandfather.
Yeah.
No.
Health is health, I guess. No matter what.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
move it forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, did we have any members that had made any comments or wrote in?
Not to my knowledge. Tammy, did anybody say anything after we last spoke?
No, I don't have any comments. Member comments or emails.
Okay. Any new business from anyone?
Nope.
Okay. We will postpone a next meeting date because since we will be talking about this at the next meeting, let's see where it goes from there before we schedule it.
Good deal.
Okay.
Have a nice night.
See
Good
y'all
night,
next
everybody.
Thursday.
See you later.
All right, good night.
That's it.